Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and I just got done watching the trailer for Doctor Strange, and I thought, you know what else is strange? A bunch more MTG cards, so it's time to resurrect the old series. It's time for the weirdest cards in Magic the Gathering, Part 5. Let's start with a very perplexing card, Perplexing Chimera. It was printed very recently, actually, and it states whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may exchange control of Perplexing Chimera and that spell. If you do, you may choose new targets for the spell. So you don't actually, own the spell, you just control it. So the only thing you're allowed to do is actually choose new targets. The problem is, once you've retargeted the spell, they now have a 3/3 Chimera. Not only that, but they can now do the exact same thing to you because you're now the opponent. So I guess it's less confusing and more just a bad card. But then again, if you had this out there, and they were trying to win the game with a Crater's Claws, they couldn't because you could flip it and kill them. So a little bit of anti-magic suppression, classic blue I guess. Next up, we've got one of my friend's favorite cards because he unleashed it on us in a Commander game actually with 6 players, and it was complete and utter madness. I'm of course talking about Conjured Currency. It costs 6 and it's an enchantment, but it's just an enchantment, not an aura or anything targeted. And it states, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may exchange control of Conjured Currency and target permanent you neither own nor control. This is one of those cards where you have to think about the actual consequences of it and how it really works past the wording. So let me put it this way. Okay, I put it out on my battlefield and then wait for somebody to cast something really cool, like for example their commander, and then I steal it at the beginning of my upkeep, of course. So I get their commander, and they get this enchantment. Now during their upkeep, they can exchange control of any permanent on the field, except for their card that just got stolen, because I'm controlling it, but they're the owner. So in other words, no backsies. So people were stealing, commanders and, ridiculous, mana generation black cards and stuff, and just stuff that was irrelevant and things they just didn't want the other player to have, and it was just madness. This thing bounced around like a ping pong ball. It's utter chaos, and I love it. You should all put it in your decks. And back to the same block that a bunch of weirdness came out of, we've also got Hypnotic Siren. It's a 1/1 blue flyer for 1, but for obvious reasons, not a fairy. Could you even imagine this in a fairies deck? Anyway, you could just bring it out on the battlefield and you got an early game flyer to do some damage or to chump block a flyer. Or you could pay 7 and bestow it. So you could give one of your own creatures flying and +1/+1, which is not bad. For 7 it's a little steep. Or you could actually bestow the Hypnotic Siren on an enemy creature. So then you not only steal it, not only add +1/+1 to it, but now it has flying. So what's so weird about this? Well, in case you're not familiar with the bestow mechanic, that's not how it's supposed to work. So I picked out this card for strangeness solely based on the ridiculous size of its card rulings. I wouldn't recommend necessarily reading the entire thing, but it is a better read than Twilight. Better storyline, more action, it's just better. But, yeah, they said they don't write MTG novels anymore, but they wrote this, didn't they? Some of these rulings are so absurdly complicated that you gotta wonder if they were playtesting it, and then they said, oh, but this happened in this one circumstance. Crap, we gotta write this down. I mean, the type of spell that this is considered is, different depending upon how you summon it, and, you don't have to declare, something, and I don't even remember what's all in here. I don't feel like reading it again, but it is utter chaos just for them to make a simple kidnapper creature. Next up, we've got everybody's favorite, Knowledge Pool. It's a 6-cost artifact made exclusively out of stupidity. Seriously, that glowing you're seeing, that is pure concentrated stupid. So when you cast it, it uses imprint, which it's not really truly imprint. I mean, they shouldn't have really called it that, but basically, each player exiles the top 3 cards of his or her library, so there's 6 cards sitting in the pool. Now, whenever any player casts a spell from his or her hand, so you do still have to pay for a spell, that player exiles it. If the player does, he or she may cast another non-land card exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying that card's mana cost. So you can either cast the spell that you actually intended to cast, or you can have what's behind door number 2, which is a better spell, potentially. They should have called this card Shoot Yourself in the Foot, because that's probably a more accurate description. I mean, I could swap out a 1-cost spell for a 10-cost spell, for free, And it just so happens that I was the first person to be able to cast a spell, so I got the best spell in the pool. In case it's not horribly obvious by what I just said, you can cast your opponent's spells that were exiled this way. So you get just a chaotic shootout, which is of course a mountain of fun, but this is definitely still a strange card. Next up, we're going old school with LiarsPendulum, the 1-cost artifact. For a mere 2 mana, you can tap this artifact, name a card, and then you pick an opponent and have them guess whether or not a card with that name is in your hand or not. You may reveal your hand. If you do, and your opponent guessed wrong, so in other words you have to prove it, draw a card. Now of course you could name absolutely any card, but I would strongly recommend naming something that's actually in your deck. But here's the fun part. It doesn't say non-land, so you can just say island. So they'd say, yeah, of course you've got an island. Ha ha, wrong, I'm mana screwed. And then pull, top deck an island, and there you go. I do see a slight problem with this card. After you reveal your hand, it pretty much only works once. Well, unless of course you really want to try to convince them that you're naming a card that you just top decked in hopes that they believe you and then guess incorrectly. Or, of course, the exact opposite. Either would work, so definitely a fun card, definitely a strange card. Next up, we're going ultra old school with Power Leak. Why is this one so strange? Well, simply because it says enchant enchantment. So back in the day, it would say enchant land, enchant creature, and, enchant whatever, so you had to put it on the target permanent that matched the type of enchantment that it was. Well, this odd little fellow says enchant enchantment, so you can only enchant another enchantment. It would be great if it was an enchantment that your opponent controlled too, because it says during the upkeep of target enchantment's controller, Power Leak deals 2 damage to him or her. That player may pay 1 colorless for each damage he or she wishes to prevent from Power Leak. So you're holding their life total ransom for 2 mana every single turn. It's an effective card, it's a funny card, and I love it. So now we move from some just odd cards that are a little bit off the beaten path to a card that just screams, what the heck is this? I'm of course talking about Scornful Egotist. It costs 8 mana, so it must be amazing, right? Wrong. It's a 1/1 creature wizard. There must be something really special in the card's rules text then, right? Nope. It's just morphable for 3 and then unmorphable for 1. Doesn't even have Megamorph. There are some cards that work with wizards, so maybe you just want to have another wizard on the field, or you might want to hide the fact that you have a wizard on the field, so you throw out a 2/2 morpher, and then unmorph it, and hey, I have a wizard! But still, why 8? Why is it 8? Why would it possibly be 8? In fact, is it even worth it to pay 3 and then pay 1, basically pay 4 to get a 1/1 wizard on the field? In almost any case, no. And finally, I will end with an absolute classic from Mirrodin. You know it, I'm talking about Shared Fate. If a player would draw a card, that player removes the top card of an opponent's library from the game face down instead. That does not say may. Yeah, you're doing that. Then, each player may look at and play cards he or she removed from the game with Shared Fate as though they were in his or her hand. So basically every time you draw a card, instead you draw a card off of your opponent's library, and then you can play it if you can play it. If they're playing a different color than you, well, good luck with that. But don't take my word for it. This is one of my favorite ruling texts of all time. On December 1st, 2004, Wizards wrote the ruling for this card, stating, you need to pay the costs of any cards you play from the exile zone. This could be a problem if you don't have the right colors of mana available. It's always fun when Wizards reminds you that you're screwed. Oh, and by the way, if your opponent runs out of cards in their library, screw you. That's not the official ruling, but that's basically what they're saying. Of course, they would probably lose at the next upkeep unless they had a card that specifically prevents them from losing under that circumstance. So definitely fun chaos. If you had nothing but mana filters and fixing, you could probably play cards while your opponent's completely shut down. So I could see a deck built around this, for sure. Just hope that your opponent doesn't have the same color and brand of sleeves as you. Well, that's it for this video, but if you think I missed a card, well, first watch 1 through 4 of this video series, and then if it's not in any of those, leave it down in the comment section. Now, of course, I'm not covering Unhinged or Unglued because every single card in there is weird, and that's kind of the point, so it kind of defeats the purpose. I'll see you guys next video.